Hi everyone, Dalan. This is just a continuation really of the last video that I showed you where we stopped right about here, where we're going to talk a little bit about parameters. And if you remember the plots that we looked at the last, we had a scatter plot that I had changed the black dots to kind of a what they call a cadet blue, which is indicated how I did that with the C0L parameter. And you also notice that in the final plot that I showed you, I'd actually changed these from circles to crosses, and X is kind of our symbols. And then what about this LAS2 parameter, and what does that do? Well, that actually has to do with the orientation of the values here. If I were to erase this parameter or set it equal to 0, the default, you would find that these would be rotated 90 degrees. And that's kind of awkward. You'd have to turn your head kind of sideways to read them. So I always like to use LS2 as a parameter. And then finally, whether is the CEX equal 1.25, well, that changes the size of the text and the X as labels so that you can sort of see things a little bit better, might be the best way to say that. And so as a result of that, I put in CEX's 1.25 to make them just slightly bigger. Let's take a quick look at those parameters. I didn't invent them. They're actually found on the World Wide Web. How do you do that? Well, you ask Google, of course. And Google will route you when you say something like, what are the PCH values in R? And it gives you different shapes that you can select from. And some of them are colored. Obviously, I chose 20. So initially, I had black, which I had to override that default on 20 by coloring at some other color. And you notice in the last slide, our last video or the video before, that I actually end up using pluses and XS to separate between males and females. And we'll look at that further as we go on. The second parameter that's probably important to have a table available to you is to look at colors. And these are the colors that are available to you in that are all labeled. You notice that pick Cadet Blue 1 being appear in the top left-hand corner. But you may have other color preferences. And then of course, so we have a size parameter in terms of the text labels and the axis. We have an orientation of axis, and we have the symbol. And then of course, we have the color that will have to do it. And now we're going to be moving into some more complex plotting in our next videos. Thank you for joining me.